Yeah, I'll in our last home game, I do want to just say what a remarkable atmosphere that was. I mean, the home environment had so many uh, positives other than the fact that we didn't win the game. And I can't thank the students enough for just their engagement in it, and I just felt like it was the right way. I can't imagine a better atmosphere in the country than that. And so what an awesome thankful for that. And now we get to play in another tremendous atmosphere at Kansas, which I have a lot of respect for as a player, playing at Allen Fieldhouse as an assistant, and then now as a head coach. Just the run that Coach Self has and what he's continued that tradition on to be. Honestly, I can't think of a better run in a conference than what he's had and what he's done in our league in the Big 12. It's really literally mind-blowing to think the success that he's been able to build at a place that's already a storied program. So and a lot of respect for this game, and a lot of respect for this opportunity that we have on Saturday. And, I know our team's looking forward to it.
Coach, historically speaking, Texas Tech is 1-22 all-time at Allen Fieldhouse. And to go along with that, you're already here. You're already undefeated against Kansas. So what would a win mean to you to already be in your second year and you're undefeated against one of the class organizations or just programs in all of college basketball?
Well, we're not one of the only programs that's had that kind of record at Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, I'm close with a lot of coaches in this league and watched the game live. I mean, I watched it as it was happening when Houston beat them at their place this year. I did not watch the game until I watched it the other day on film when West Virginia beat them earlier in the season. So, I mean, it's just happened limited times. I know we beat them up there. The Red Raiders beat them up there in a significant season that we had here. So I know what the grit that it takes to do it, and it just has to be from the beginning. And so honestly, I don't care about any records. I just care about our team, and I care about how prepared we'll be to be at our best. And that's any game, but this one in regards to this building and the way they compete at home and how I think their team's playing great basketball right now too. I mean, they went through a stretch like a lot of people do in February where it's long. And I think February is the month that you get the widest range, honestly, because of injuries and fatigue of the Big 12 play, that you get like scores that are wild. And I think they've experienced that. But the win they had against Oklahoma State the other day at home, I think said a lot about who they are as a team and what they're capable of.
And just overall, from a practice standpoint, not necessarily today specifically, but what's the preparation process kind of looked like against the team that's really been Jekyll and Hyde throughout conference play, and just and at times whenever they're hot, they can hit and be dangerous. So just what's kind of been the practice preparation process looking like for you guys?
Yeah, practice for us is we're not avoiding going live, and we are practicing and going full speed, and we're competing. We're not doing it a ton. We've worked quite a bit on execution offensively and defensively, and we've stuck to the fundamentals in our approach. And, hey, if it's closeouts, we work on closeouts and having the right stick hand. I just think you can't abandon the simple, repeated practices that you must be great at, especially defensively. And then offensively, it's how do you fine-tune the skill level, but also keep a competitive fight to how you practice. And so I think, pressing and working on finishing games where you go full speed against press, because, if there's anything you watch, it's like the end of the Kansas-Houston game at Houston. I mean, it always comes down to a few possessions where they take things away and you got to be able to adapt. And so it's not always the clean play that works. It's what you do afterwards. So to me, it's fine-tuning your ability to handle chaos with the skill and repeatables that you want your program to be founded on. And it's not about having tricky plays, but it's about teaching the experience. And like the other day, if you look at our team, we didn't have a lot of experience out there at home. I mean, Christian Anderson, Elijah Hawkins, Kevin Overton, Fede, and JT. I mean, all those guys are new. I mean, the only person that had played in our program was was Kerwin. And there was a time when he wasn't on the floor. So really it's like you need to have these practices where you get experience of doing things that haven't happened. And then how do you adapt to it? And so there's a composure level to it. And I do see us grow in that area. And that's been a big part of our practices also.
Y'all have had the chance to play at BYU in Houston, and obviously y'all play here. When going into an environment like Kansas, is that sort of a non-factor at this point in the season, going into that type of atmosphere?
No, it's not a non-factor. It's a factor. And if you underestimate what a road opponent is capable of, and especially in a building where it can get away from you quickly, I think the urgency to start the game, the approach can't be tight, but it also can't be loose. I mean, there has to be this balance of fight and grit that also is accompanied with a heightened awareness of the execution, that you have to get every possession your compete level to the highest level. And then you just got to trust each other in the way you compete. And to me, there is a unique part of going into this building that you have to be prepared for. And it's just an awareness that the game can get away from you, and you don't compete thinking it gets away from you, but you compete with an edge, and you better be an aggressive team to start. Can't be on your heels.
Fede's defense has been pretty efficient as of late, most recently with Jawan Roberts. You've talked about how hard he works and the kind of person he is. What really goes into making his defense so efficient?
Well, one, Fede Rico has an awesome approach to every day. That's what allows him to be such a consistent defender. And two, his experience level and his ability to move is the most underrated part of our ability as a team to be a good defensive team. And physicality, sometimes around the basket because of his length, people can get underneath him. But when it's ball screen coverages, which is where we have grown the most, he's kind of been the core guy from the very beginning that's always been in the right place at the right time. Thankfully, he's had great coaches and he's continued to improve. But to me, what separates Fede is he comes every day with an attitude like there's a joy to how he approaches it, and that's unique and really sets the tone for, not everybody loves playing defense, and Fede does. So that's awesome.
Kind of going off that, you guys held Hunter Dickinson to 5 points last year. I think that was a season low for him. What do you need to do to, have a similar result?
Yeah, he's such a good player with angles, and he's so skilled that he knows how to put himself in position to catch and score, and limiting those opportunities and giving him those efficient, easier baskets is, I think, where you have to start. And Hunter, his ability to leverage you by the way he plays in ball screens and plays in the post, and he can make threes, and he can get you from so many different angles that I think the biggest thing is limiting those touches closest to the basket.
Are you expecting either Darian Williams or Chance McMillan to be ready for Saturday?
Yeah, our hope in approaching this has been getting them ready to play every game, and neither one of them have practiced since the last game. I mean, we've had them around us and they've been a part of practice but haven't been full go in practice, and we'll need to see that before we put them in a game. And so we'll see how it goes tomorrow in that approach, and that'll determine what we look like for Saturday's game. But it's hard to say. It truly is a day-to-day, seeing if we can get them to feel confident and healthy, where when they step out on the floor they can actually be full go competitive. And that's kind of what way we've approached it always. I will say their intent is to play Saturday. That from their perspective, I mean, I get the sense they're done watching. Now whether we can get them full speed where they can feel confident about, everybody feels confident about their participation without it being a problem down the road, that's to be determined.
Kind of going back to limiting Hunter, on the other side of the floor, if y'all are struggling to limit him down the floor, how key is it that JT Toppin gets those second chance points, or those gritty, just kind of twitchy fighting points under the basket if y'all are having a bit of trouble stopping Hunter?
Yeah, I mean, our offense is good when we share the basketball, but our offense is great when we take the right shots and then we create extra opportunities. And JT is as good in the country at going and getting offensive rebounds and scoring them as anybody. And that was what kept us in the ball game against Houston. And I think it is the separator when you talk about having a good offense and having a great offense is your ability to get second attempts. An underrated part of that, the game up there actually isn't necessarily, it's not turning the ball over because they're so good in transition at Allen Fieldhouse. So the limiting turnovers and getting good shots where you can offensive rebounds a key to having a great offense up there.
Hey, Coach.
Welcome, man.
How you doing?
Great.
With your second season coming to an end in Big 12 play, what's the message for the last 3 games for this basketball team?
I think it's been a constant approach of just how do you get better every day. It's not complicated. It really isn't. Don't try to make it more than what it is. I mean, when we play Kansas, it will be March 1st. And so I think the calendar turning, I mean, Elijah Hawkins the other day said, like, I can't believe when you're at the beginning part of February, it feels like it's been such a long year. And then all of a sudden you get to the end and you're like, how did we get to March already? And Elijah Hawkins was like, I can't believe that the regular season's almost over. And I do think it starts to set in when you get to the end and maybe you start thinking about all the things that could happen. And honestly, we just try to keep it very grounded to the habits that we've created up to this point. What do you do daily that has gotten you better, and how do you commit and double down on those things that you know have been most effective? And that's honestly the heart behind the end of the season is don't make it out to be anything other than how do you get a little bit better. Literally, how do you get better? And so, I mean, like our individual drill work and our time away from the court is really focused on what puts the team in a better position and helps them get better at the things that our team knows we need, and just communicating that and reiterating it. And the other thing I left our team with today that I think is really important is how do you encourage each other and acknowledge when people are doing great things to help the team? And I just think you also really emphasize our ability to communicate our appreciation for guys and what we're doing well. And, sometimes you just take it for granted that Elijah Hawkins finds you in the corner because it's so easy for him to do that. But, I mean, the dude is not turning it over and he's passing everybody, and those things that I take for granted. I mean, it's like having Chance McMillan not out there. I mean, we probably haven't shot it as well without him out there, and, like, I don't ever want to not appreciate Chance playing. And I don't want to ever not appreciate JT grabbing the ball, or Christian Anderson coming up with a loose ball, or Elijah Hawkins making that pass. So how do you help them see that and really communicate their appreciation for each other? Because I think that, and then the other thing is just like, man, tell the truth. If it gets really difficult and you mess things up, I think asking for forgiveness is probably the most important part of your team improvement on the court, and our ability when it happens immediately to recognize we don't do something well and be willing to say, hey, I messed up, man, sorry about that. And our guys being able to appreciate that. So appreciation for each other, asking for forgiveness, and doubling down on the everyday approach of doing the little things effectively that are fundamentals.
Coach, how has this team grown in overcoming adversity from the beginning of the season, from losses at with UCF and Iowa State to a tough game without 2 of your best players? How have they overcome adversity?
Well, I think one area that's obvious that we've improved over this course of the season is when offense hasn't been great, we've still got fight, and we still find a way to stay in the game and knowing that we can win the game. And the other day, we probably shot it as poorly as we've shot it all year long, but it's to Houston's credit. It wasn't like we shot it poorly. It was like, hey, they made it difficult for us. But I'd never felt like our team was discouraged. I felt like the grit and competitiveness of our group was what it needed to be. And, you got it to 3 points, and it's not acceptable. And our team knows that. But I do think that we know we can win when offense isn't perfect and offense isn't great. We still have the right fight to put ourselves in position. That's where I think our team's improved the most.
How does this team improve being able to have the grit and have Christian Anderson and Elijah Hawkins be able to get significant minutes versus Houston, and that will help this team when it comes later on for Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's such a long year, and the ability to bounce back and play minutes and be exposed to difficult situations in this league against the best teams in the country, and still know that we can improve, I think in their eyes is really, I think, the greatest thing for like Christian and Elijah is, hey, like we can get a ton better, and we're right there to win the games that I think are what put you in position to make a run in the NCAA tournament and to win the Big 12 tournament for that matter. So for us to see that, and for these guys still to have the heart, like we got to get better at this, like let's keep getting better. And that's my favorite part of those guys' experience right now, is they're getting a ton of opportunities to see where we can still improve, and they're embracing that.
How do you kind of balance the competitiveness in practice, especially this time of year, especially with the guys that get some bigger minutes, and when you're kind of missing some guys and you still got a lot to play, but you're kind of at the end at the same time too?
Yeah, I honestly, if there's one thing that's a common discussion across college basketball with our coaches and our group of friends that you talk to, it's like, how do you maintain a competitiveness in practice to get better without getting anybody hurt? I mean, that's the truth. And, man, it is a fine line. And you get too obsessed with trying to not get anybody hurt, I think that's how you lose. And so I do think there's a stress that you have to put on your team and on your body this time of year to continue to grow it. But we did take 2 days off. That's part of it. It's like really rest, try to improve that and make sure that we are hydrated, that we are getting good sleep, that we are eating right, so that we can have a practice like we did today and still improve. And it wasn't long. And I think the key to it is just, how do you rev it all the way up to get it to full speed, so that our bodies still feel that, but then you taper it down enough where you make the practices competitively high intensity, but you probably take away the live part toward the end, which is a key to probably when guys get hurt, is when they get fatigued at the end of practice. You still push them, though. You just leave the competitive part out of the end and make it more geared toward the beginning of practice.
And this is the time of year where everybody's making their all-conference, all-American kind of prediction. You have a vote for the Big 12 and stuff. What do you kind of look for in kind of determining that at the end of the year, and I guess a pitch for your guys to be included in that conversation? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, first and foremost, in my perspective in regard to all conference, it's teams that win. I mean, that's all we're going to pick off of whoever's winning in this league first and foremost. And then second to that, it's difficult when it comes to seeing how our team has improved to know like what we were really capable of, because we lost guys to so many different times over the year of injury. I think what people are seeing and what people have seen in this league is Chance McMillan is one of those guys that I think is one of the best players in the country, not just one of the best players in our league. And man, I can't say enough great things about him and who he's been for our program and for our team. He's just been so consistent in his approach. And obviously you've got such a wide range of talent on our team, with Darian Williams, is what he's done as a whole player. Those two guys have just been an anchor for us. And then JT Toppin, I think, has probably had one of the best runs toward the second part but he missed a month, with a lower body injury, and didn't practice for 4 weeks. I mean, that's a significant part of it. And then what he's done, I think this second half is what everybody sees what he's capable of and could have done from the beginning. And then, Elijah Hawkins, Christian Anderson, I mean, those two guys have really been, I think, rocks for us in conference play through all of it. I mean, those guys just haven't missed, and they've played all the way through. And so I would think Christian's one of the best. I mean, Elijah Hawkins is the best, I think, passer in our league, and I don't think it's close. And I think Christian Anderson has put himself in position to be one of the best freshmen in the country, not just in the Big 12. So I'm really thankful for this group and how we've continued to grow. And Kevin Overton and Kerwin Walton and Fede Rico are guys that I think just have been unbelievably resilient in roles that are not easy to embrace. And so I don't think there's anybody that's not capable of being an all-league type player in one way, shape, or form. But I think there's definitely been, Christian being a freshman and JT being such a dynamic player, and Elijah at the point, and Chance and Darian Williams have been the rock of our team. Thank y'all.